We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Sunday. Sundays are weird days, not a lot going on the weekends, but we've got plenty to talk about. In fact, this entire show will be nothing but emails. We've had a few guests on Wilfredo yesterday. Thanks to him for coming in. Sounds like you folks liked Wilfredo. He did a great job. He'll be back, I'm sure. Um, but I got behind on the emails again, so I'm going to be talking about nothing but emails today. Now, these emails will talk largely about the debate. That's the big issue of the day. And I've got a lot of things to say about that. I'm a little frustrated by the behavior of some Democrats or people who claim to be supporters of Joe Biden. And we'll get into that in a minute or so. I got started late tonight. And when I say tonight, I mean this morning. Normally, I start about anywhere from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., depending on if I'm doing it alone or with a guest. Don't have a guest tonight because we're doing all emails. But I haven't started this till 12:30 my time, so I'm into Sunday morning already. I might be a little tired, but you got to be a fucking gamer. You can't be a pussy ass bitch. When you got a job to do, you do the motherfucking job, no matter if you're tired or sick or whatever. Anyhow, we're going to get down to things. And since the debate is going to be a big issue for us on this particular show, there's been a lot going on, and I've done a number of TikToks about this. Um, the debate went the way the debate went. Joe seemed very slow, seemed very off. Now, why that is, we don't know. Was he sick? Did he take a cold medicine? Did a Republican slip him a Mickey? I don't know what the fuck happened, but he didn't come off very well. And I'm frustrated with Joe and the Democrats because they missed an opportunity. They fucked up. But beyond that, I'm getting a little tired of people overreacting to things. You know, we've got a guy who's 82 years old, granted. He's also been one of the most productive presidents in the history of this country. He's been able to show himself as strong and straightforward in the State of the Union during D-Day and the day after the debate. It's not like this guy is wobbling constantly. It was one day. Now, I'm hearing a lot of people on TikTok, and this is interesting, I think. There are a lot of people on TikTok that do what I do in terms of the liberal side of things. And I'm surprised, but not really surprised. Some of them are saying, well, Joe's got to go right now. Joe's got to go. There's one guy on TikTok who I like. His name is Hawk. He gets brought up here quite a bit. He's a good guy. I mean, I don't know him at all. I've never talked to him. But he's a sharp guy and he does a good TikTok. But he's the one that says, Joe's got to go right now. I'm going to tell you what that is. The problem with these left side people. I mean, we know the Republicans are going to be saying this. We know they're going to be doing that. That goes beyond question. But the left side people, they're freaking out. And I'll tell you why they're freaking out. Because, like with Donald Trump and the Republicans, this is all about emotions. They're really worried that Joe Biden's now going to lose to Donald Trump in November. So they got to come up with a quick way to fix it. They got to fix it. So bring somebody else in. And that is the dumbest way to deal with any problem. If you're panicking, if you're reacting, if you're getting emotional about it, I guarantee you'll make the wrong fucking choice. I've said this before to people. Everything works out for the best. And they'll say to me, no, it doesn't always work out for the best because of this, because of that, because of this. And I will agree with you there. There's a caveat to that saying, everything works out for the best. Everything works out for the best if you allow it to, if you have a little faith, and if you don't fuck it up yourself. And what I mean by that is if something tragic happens or something scary happens, what's the first thing people do? They try everything and anything to get it fixed as fast as possible. And when they do that, that's where they fuck up. And that's what people are doing with Joe Biden in this whole election thing. He has this one fuck up where he sounds bad. I'll give you that. Ever been to a concert where your favorite singer sounds bad one night? People have off nights. Now, Hawk and some of these other people, yeah, but I saw what I saw. What did you see, motherfucker? What did you see? You saw him talking slow. Toward the second half of uh, the debate, he wasn't talking at the pace we'd want, with the strength we'd want. His voice was a little weak, but everything he said was true. It was clear, it was concise, and it was facts. Here's what I don't understand. Everybody's quick to jump on Joe Biden. No, he's got to go because he sounded soft. He was sounding like he was confused. He wasn't that confused, and we never got that impression. The first part was pretty shaky, but after he got past that, it was still slow. It was hard to watch, but it was clear. What I find amazing, why are these people saying Joe's got to go when Donald Trump slurred Palestinians, slurred people of color, made up complete, absolute fucking lies? He's got 34 felony charges. He was liable for raping a woman. And not once have Republicans or Democrats said, oh, he's got to quit. He's got to be replaced. Nobody's ever said that. Yet Joe has one slow night and you want him to quit. Well, I'm going to tell you this. That is a stupid, reactive, emotional reaction, and it's not going to happen. The idea of taking Joe out now, one of the most successful presidents in history, regardless of his age, 4 months before the election, that's just stupid. You take him out, now you've got to build somebody else up and hope to God they have the support that Joe had. It's not going to work. It's kind of the same problem the Republicans have with Donald Trump. They're not going to let go of Donald Trump because if they do, they got to start from the get go and it ain't going to work. The only thing that's going to cause people to be taken out of the race is if they fucking keel over. And I'm talking Donald Trump or Joe Biden. That's the only way it's going to happen. That's the only way it makes sense to happen. I'm hearing all kinds of pundits. Yep, he's got to go. The New York Times says he's got to go. Just shut the fuck up. First of all, he's not going to go. You see, what happens is it's like uh, it's like buzzards or it's like shark. Once they see something floundering in the water, they all attack it because they know there's a lot of attention attached to it and they can make traction with that. Now, it's funny, some of these left side TikTokers that are they're getting a lot of blowback. They keep telling us, oh, yeah, Joe's got to go. Well, my question would be why? Why? You're afraid that what happened in that debate is going to cause Joe Biden to lose. But what happened? Polling went up. He fundraised more than he ever did in a 2 hour period, something like $14 million. What's the downside here? You see, that debate was more damaging for Donald Trump than it was Joe Biden. And I'd be glad to debate anybody, TikToker, I don't give a fuck. Because that opportunity gave people to be reminded just how crazy, batshit crazy, and confused Donald Trump is. Donald Trump was louder, his voice was clearer, but the content of what he said made no fucking sense. It was all over the place. There are people smarter than these TikTok creators and the media that see what Donald Trump is. They saw it. They may be put off by the way Joe Biden talked the way he did, but fuck, did you listen to Donald Trump? Apparently you didn't because you think Joe Biden was worse off than Donald Trump, that you think Donald Trump may have won that debate. No, he didn't. What's happening here is exactly what I've been telling you about the Republicans. They will take something small and expand on it, throw it into the ether, and hope to God people believe it. And inevitably, there are Democrats that get sucked into it every time. They knew that Donald Trump was going to come off as a wacko, that he was going to say crazy, stupid shit, and he did. So they got an opening because Joe Biden and his team weren't ready, weren't prepared properly, and they saw it and they jumped all over it and they turned it into something bigger than it is. And they're making hay, but it's not working with the general public. The polling's good, the fundraising is good. So you want him to pull out when the fundraising is up and the polling's up? What's your reasoning? Is it because you think he's not cognitively capable? Did you not watch the North Carolina speech? Because he looked pretty good there. That tells us more that it's an off day than it is some constant thing with Joe. But I'm just tired of fucking whiners. I'm tired of whiners and criers, and I'm not going to listen to them. Now, I'm going to read the emails, and something I've never told you about the emails. I read these emails on the show. I do not read them before I put them on the show. I don't know what anybody's going to say. When you hear these emails, I'm hearing them for the first time and I'm reacting however I react to these emails. So, if I've already talked about something and it comes up in the email, because I haven't read it yet, we're going to read them now. We got a shitload of them. So let's get to it. All right, the first one says, good evening. I was watching the debate and was actually amazed that Trumpy was cognitively competent. I will say this, he was neither cognitively competent or even clear. What he was doing was talking loud and he was articulating clear, but there was nothing cognitive about what he said. It was confusing. There was nothing about competence with it either. It was confusing. It was scattered. It was disoriented. It was disconcerting, actually. Anyway, we'll go on. That being said, I hope people realize that Trumpy never actually addresses any questions posed to him. Yeah, that was pretty clear. And I think a lot of people recognize that. He never answered a question, which is a red flag when you're in a fucking debate. Everything that spewed out of his mouth was totally unrelated to the question posed to him, not to mention total fabrication. Unfortunately, Biden, for the most part, came across as, shall we say, less than forceful. Why the hell can Democrats not just go at these MAGA morons and Trump-the-fucks full force? Good point. That's always been a complaint of mine. It's way past time for Biden and Democrats up and drawn the board to stop being the calm, rational option and start hammering Republicans unmercifully every day until the election. I couldn't agree with you more. If there was ever a time to go on the offensive and attack constantly, I said this about Joe Biden, what he needs to do to change the narrative, if he even needs to do that now, is to step up and give a speech like he gave in North Carolina every few days and every time hammer Donald Trump. That's what he needs to do. In another note, for those millennials and Gen Xers who are protesting Biden's response to the situation in Gaza, just because they can't call up their preferred responses on Facebook doesn't mean the Biden government isn't working to change Israel's modus operandi. The quickest way to entrench a foreign government stance against anything you say is to publicly humiliate them. Just because you can't read about it on social media doesn't mean it's not happening. Keep up the good fight, Stephanie. And you're absolutely right about that, Stephanie. You're worried about all the things Joe Biden and the Democrats aren't doing with Israel, but you don't know what they're doing. You shouldn't know what they're doing. So at some point, you got to have some faith that you have people in the right space to do the right things, and they're going to do the most they possibly can. This Israel thing is a big factor in the coming election. You think Joe Biden is sitting in the fucking dining room watching it on TV like Donald Trump did? I don't think so. I think there's probably a lot going on, and you got to be. These people need this immediate gratification. They want it now. And that's what people are doing when they say, Joe's got to go. We got to fix it now. That's a mistake. And you should know that. The people who are saying these things should be grown enough and experienced enough to know better than that bullshit. All right. The next one starts out, I'm trying very hard to not be the sky is falling guy, but the optics of the debate were not good for Biden. Okay. They weren't very good for Donald Trump either, if you were paying attention. My issue is the way it was moderated, though. Biden would always answer the question at hand, but Trump, who sat there and thought of the previous question, would just circle back to the previous question, but of course without facts. That would throw Biden, which would put Biden on the defensive of moving forward. I can't stand Trump, but I think it was a smart tactic. I don't think it was an intentional tactic. I don't think it was a tactic in terms of the debate because Donald Trump just not that sharp. This was more what's the word I'm looking, instinctual for him. Joe Biden attacks him, so he's got to attack him back. It did work out well for Donald Trump in doing that because it probably did throw Joe Biden off and confuse him. It made it hard to debate somebody who's talking about a question too previous. So you're probably right about that. And as far as CNN, the moderation, that was an absolute embarrassment. For that reason, I don't watch CNN anyway. I don't watch Jake Tapper, Dana Bash, or any of those motherfuckers. But I definitely won't watch them ever again. And every time I get a chance, I will suggest nobody watch CNN. What they did in that debate was egregious. And as far as I'm concerned, they are an accessory to the attack on America that is Donald Trump. They go on and say, but when you can just sit there and lie without recourse, CNN made the night pretty easy for Trump. Yes, they did. Trump is a good liar and full of shit, and CNN or the debate format allowed him to claim a win, in my opinion, with no facts. What do you think? I agree with you 100%. CNN was as much responsible for that shit show as anybody, and CNN should be canceled for that shit. They are getting some blowback on this. I don't know what it'll come down to or whether they care. I don't know that they care. There's a lot of things and a lot of people bending over for Donald Trump. And for the life of me, I don't understand it. And when I talk about these other creators that say Joe's got to go, one of the things that frustrates me the most about these fucks, I don't know if they don't realize it or they're doing it intentionally, but by doing what they're doing, they're hurting the cause. They're making the war tougher. You got to be less emotional and look at the facts. Donald Trump is going to be sentenced to prison on July 11th with any luck at all. Steve Bannon is going to jail on Monday. We're going to have the Supreme Court not give Donald Trump immunity. That one debate, that 190 minutes will go in the recesses of our memories with all the current shit coming out. That's been the case. That's been the case for the last 8 years. Donald Trump does something crazy. We get upset. It's the worst thing in the world. Then something else happens and we forget all about it. That's what's going to happen with this debate, especially if Joe Biden still stands up every other day or every few days and gives a speech like he did in North Carolina. People are overreacting to it. There's a long time before the election. People's minds change constantly. It's just now that people are starting to really look seriously at the election, and some of them may not be as yet. Stop panicking. Stop being pussy ass bitches. All right, the next one comes from Suzanne from North Carolina. I watched the debate and it has not changed my mind. I'm still firmly blue. Yes, Biden may be slow, but he is honest and for the people. Trump is as smelly as the content of his diapers. Ha ha ha. Keep up the good work, Suzanne from North Carolina. Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate that. All right, the next one says, Hi, Boomer. Wow, my fear that Biden would be too flaky, feisty was wasted. Worry. Good grief. Post debate, I want to thank you more than ever. I'm relatively calm and even settling others down. But I'm going to be 100% honest and tell you I'd be losing my goddamn mind right now without a daily dose of Boomer and community. Best Garage Door Jeff. P.S. Fun fact, I can buy a Fleece Johnson t shirt, but not a Rational Boomer t shirt. How fucked is that? It's funny. I was going through um, maybe TikTok, and I came across a short bit of an interview with Fleece Johnson. That is one creepy motherfucker. And I get what you're saying, Jeff. You're jabbing me. You can get a Fleece Johnson T-shirt, but not a Rational Boomer T-shirt. I'm figuring out a way to get the T-shirt. I promise you. I promise you. Um, I would wear a Fleece Johnson T-shirt though. I wouldn't wear a Rational Boomer T-shirt because that would look ridiculous. Me with my face on my T-shirt. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Maybe I'll get one with Old Soul or Eric or Wilfredo or something, but not me. All right. Thank you, Garage Door Jeff. Next one says, hello, Boomer and Boomer Brigade. The debate was weird. It strongly bothered me, but at the same time encouraged me. Trump was loud, but literally lied about everything, and I mean everything. Joe looked weak, and he pushed his incredible record. Trump was the Mount St. Helens of bullshit as much as Biden was slow. Trump showed the world that he is an ignorant, unintelligent, lying, pathological, narcissistic sociopath. He did that very well. He literally broke the lie meter. Um, Hold on a second here. I messed up something here. Okay. The real outrage is CNN. Owned by a Trump supporter, they have swung to the right and are at a level now of a Fox or OAN. Dana Bash and Jake Tapper have no credibility as journalists anymore. They deliberately played Biden by not fact checking Trump and outrage. Last night, CNN put the final nail in the coffin of the American media and journalism. It no longer exists. It no longer has any credibility and should be totally ignored. The fact that Tapper and Bush went along with the CNN tactic shows they have no business being in front of the camera and the people. An absolute disgrace. Biden should make sure in September debate CNN can be removed and fact checkers will be allowed. Well, I don't think the second one will be on CNN. I think it's on another regular network, ABC or NBC or something like that. Trump and the Republicans must be and will be defeated. I don't believe 80% of the population will walk in to an authoritarian, predatory government. Thanks for your intelligence and clarity in these difficult circumstances. Z Man. Well, thank you, Z Man. I couldn't agree with you more. CNN is an embarrassment, and that was a travesty. And there is much to blame as anybody in that debate. All right. Next one says, Dear Boomer, I'm a new listener and I tune in every morning on my way to work. I'm a 31-year in battle hardened teacher, annoying the first day of summer break. I'm sorry, I didn't mean annoying. Enjoying the first day of summer break, and the news this morning is messing up my relaxation mojo. Well, new listener, I can tell you I'm married to a woman who's retired now and spent 30 years battle hardened teacher as well. So I feel your pain. I watched the debate last night, and oh, and boy, do I wish Joe had come out swinging like you had said. The news talking heads are all crying, wanting him to resign. Come on, folks, get your heads on straight. Changing horses um, and in the middle of the race seems like a surefire way to face plant. Honestly, the only thing more infuriating than lackluster debate performance is the Democrats' perpetual sky is falling routine. I agree. They're doing more damage to Joe than a weak debate ever could. Meanwhile, the Republicans would have been proclaiming it the debate of the century if Donnie had walked out in his boxers and told knock knock jokes for 90 minutes. Tell me, do they really think Donald is ever going to get up on the debate stage with a new younger candidate who can beat up on him? Frankly, Joe could beat up on him. That's why I'm saying he fell short in this case. For that, I'm pissed off at Joe Biden and the Democrats handling him. Email continues on. It says, count on this. Donald will never debate again. Yeah, I have a feeling that's probably true. Democrats need to get busy. Talk to your kids and make sure they understand what 4 more years of Trump will mean for the Supreme Court over the next 30 to 40 years. Democrats need to play the long game. Come on, folks. If Joe can't hack it, he can always resign in his second term. It's going to be 2 weeks of this nonsense until the Trump crime boss sentencing, and then they'll shift their focus to that circus. Best, Teacher Tom. P.S. Joe's presidency has been an incredible success. Show some respect. Well, welcome, Teacher Tom. Like I say, we are teacher friendly here because I happen to be married to one who also has a 30-year career and battle scars and battle stories. So, as I say, I can relate to what you're talking about. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm glad we have people listening to the show that have their heads on straight and understand this is a long game. That's one of the problems with this country. Everybody's gotten to the point where They need immediate gratification. They need a fast answer. They need a quick response. If there's nothing else we've learned over the last 4 years when it comes to the judicial system or government in general, it's slow. You got to be patient. Getting anxious, getting scared, getting nervous does nothing but put you in a position to fail. All right. Next one, Mike. This is Erwin from Belgium here, just letting you know what Professor Alan Lichtman said after the debate. You know, the professor who has been predicting the presidential elections by using his 13 key models. He said presidential debates never have moved the needle in the past, and this one won't either. This is true. Second thing he said that the stupidest thing the Democrats could do is replace Joe Biden. Agreed. Because that indeed would be a major factor that could swing it to the Orange Fuhrer. My designation, not his. Just thought you would like to know. And that comes from Erwin. Thank you, Erwin. And I appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. It makes no sense to change things up now. It'll just weaken the Democrats and strengthen Donald Trump. Why would you want to do that? It's fucking stupid. That's why I get tired of listening to these media people and the TikTokers that say, oh, he's got to go. Stop being a pussy. Let's ride this out. Let's work it out. Let's do what we need to do. And let's fight instead of running away and crying like you're hoping that he'll do. You have to understand the Republicans know Joe Biden's going to beat Donald Trump. There's no question. So they've got to kind of fuel some chaos and some dissension and consternation in the Democratic Party. They would love to see Joe Biden being taken out because it offers them another angle to come at it. Now, somebody younger might be stronger against Donald Trump, but they've got to build up a reputation and their credibility and start the fight and do it in 4 months. That's fucking ridiculous. Anybody that says Joe Biden needs to quit right now doesn't understand how this shit works. And like I say, some of them want to come and argue with me about it. I'd be happy to do it. All right, the next one says, good morning, Mike. I've been rewatching the debate, the Hal Sparks analysis, and it is a worthwhile watch. He really breaks down the entire debate in such a way that things make a lot more sense. He stresses that so many of the issues that President Biden seemed to have were a result of his voice being weak from his throat or cold or sore throat. Regardless, anyone that would like a good breakdown of what we saw and heard, it is worth checking out Hal Sparks' take. Just so you know, I went to your program first thing. I agree with what you have said and appreciate your analysis as well. Many thanks, Mike. Illinois Hattie. All right, we got one more here and then we'll take a break. Hey, Mike, onward to July 11th. Although the debate was a disappointment, we soldier on. Everybody's acting like Biden is close to death and should be replaced as soon as possible to save the campaign. I do not subscribe to that. Trump's position has not changed in any Democrat's eyes. In fact, I believe that it's made that fact that Trump seems more of a threat, that it's going to spur us on to more action. Biden is well aware of the issues and has a handle on the components of his job. He wouldn't have been successful if that were not the case. You're absolutely right. Trump's words are all lies. I look forward to the next 5 months. Everybody just needs to calm the fuck down. People want to jump ship as soon as the debate was over. Democrats are so fragile and blow with the wind. We have to stay strong and vigilant. We have a binary choice. Do we want democracy or an autocracy dictatorship? It's that simple. Thanks for manning the ship in stormy seas, Rhonda. You're absolutely right, Rhonda. People want to make this a popularity contest. Who's better, Joe or Donald? Well, that's an easy answer. Joe Biden is far more the man than Donald Trump will ever be. But it does come down to this. It's not about the personalities here, Donald Trump or Joe Biden. It's about the difference between democracy and a dictatorship. It's really that simple. I tell young people, I say, you may not like Joe Biden. You may have to hold your nose if you vote for Joe Biden, but here's what you need to understand. You want what you want and you want it now. I get that. I was young once. But unfortunately, that's not how the way the world works. Sometimes you have to go through a process, jump over some hurdles, deal with some shit you don't want to deal with to ultimately get to where you want to go. If you vote for Joe Biden, you might have to be dealing with shit you don't like for a little bit. But come 2028, you'll have your opportunity. You'll be in power in terms of the millennials and the Gen Z's voting bloc. You'll be able to determine who will be the president. You will take over the reins at that point, and you'll get what you want to get if you vote for Joe Biden. If you vote for Donald Trump, you'll never get the opportunity to get what you want. There is no way you're going to get what you want all at once right now. So you're going to have to deal with the circumstances the way they are. Vote for Joe Biden, then start fighting right after the election to get what you want. If you go with Donald Trump, he's going to try to shut everything down, take every bit of power away from you, and you won't have the opportunity to ever get what you want. I know it's not the choice you want, but that's the choice you got. And it should be an easy choice to make. All right. We will take a quick break and we'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. This is one of those shows. It's all emails, probably a good day for it. Sunday. There's not a lot of action going on, but we have a lot of folks that things to say and they have some interesting perspectives. And I always enjoy reading the emails. And I think you folks like hearing the shows with the emails. We get more and more emails every day, and I'm always welcoming those emails. You can send an email at rationalboomer@gmail.com. I try to read every email. Like I say, I don't read them ahead of time. I'm hearing them for the first time when you hear them. So um, that's what we do. I try to read every one of them. From time to time, I may miss one. And then, of course, you can send another email to me and complain to me about it, and I'll do what I can. I do the best I can. I'm a one-man show here, man. I don't have an assistant. It's just me and the listeners that show up when they're on the program. All right, let's continue on. This one comes from Jeff from Ohio. Hey, Mike, the Supreme Court is a joke. Once the Dems win in November, they need to do whatever it takes to remove their power. If the people that charged the Capitol would have been blacks, they would have been left in jail for life. The more I'm around these MAGA fucks, I want to get away and just hang with my dog. Jeff from Ohio. P.S. If I was ever to run into you, I would shake your hand and say, "What the fuck? LOL." I would expect nothing less. If you see me and go, "What the fuck?" I know what's up. And you're right about the Supreme Court. You know, I've been hearing a lot of people squawking about the Supreme Court. They're coming out with these decisions to undermine democracy and harm this country. And people are angry about the Supreme Court and they say, "What are we going to do? We got to do something. What are we going to do now?" And I'll tell you what we're going to do now. We're going to do nothing. Not because we don't want to do something, but because we can't do anything. And the reason we can't do anything is our own fault. It's the way we voted in the past, our own apathetic behavior. Because there's a slim majority for the Republicans in the House, nothing we want to do, we can push forward. We don't have enough of a advantage in the Senate either. Everything we would try, they can block with filibuster or whatever means. There's nothing we can do. So there's no point in wasting energy wondering and worrying about what we're going to do. There's only one thing we can do, and we need to be laser focused with that. And that is in November, make sure we eradicate all the Republicans and Donald Trump, and then start taking action. Get rid of the filibuster. Deal with the Supreme Court, codify Roe v. Wade, get rid of Citizens International. We've got a lot of things we've got to do. Once the Democrats win in November, that's just the beginning of the war, because we've got to dig out of a fucking deep hole and fix a lot of shit. And as I told you, when we're talking about the government, it's slow. You don't get the immediate gratification. It's going to take some time, but we need to get there first. And the way we get there is up to you. All right. The next one says, Good day, Boomer. Was listening to the podcast today and noticed a lot of comments on how Biden didn't seem too sparky and Trumpy was full of energy. I watched part of the debate and I have to agree, but let's delve into the differences in their day. Biden is president. That alone is stressful, energy draining, spot to be in, even on a calm day where nothing's going on in the world. It's true. Biden starts his morning with daily briefings on the economy, foreign affairs, and intelligence rundown. Then he has to delve into what's happening in the Gaza, Ukraine, and whatever China and North Korea and Russia are doing. Also, he has to discuss domestic policies, meet with his campaign staff, probably do a bit of flesh pressing, and meet with people to discuss options on all of the above. Then get on a plane to fly to Atlanta and prepare for the debate by going over notes, talking to his staff, and probably rehearsing the points he wants to make. Trump's day, uh, roll out of bed around noonish, scarf a couple of Big Macs, sit around ranting insanely on social media, take a nap for a couple hours, fly to Atlanta, down a few hundred miles of Adderall, probably do a line or two, ignore suggestions from his staff, read nothing, rehearse nothing, and then go out and spew bullshit for 2 hours. I think you make a good point. And I don't think there's a lot of conjecture there. I tend to believe what you're saying is exactly the truth. Did you also notice that Trumpy kept harping on Joe's golf game, even though Trump's never seen Biden hit a ball? Can anyone please explain how one's prowess at golf related to being competent to lead the country? Stephanie. Um, well, Donald Trump keeps trying to insist that he's a perfect physical specimen. The one thing I did like that Joe wasn't totally without some shots during that thing. When the reason they got talking about the golf, Joe said, and here he is, 6'5" and 220 pounds. You can see he looks exactly like that's exactly the kind of thing that Joe Biden wanted to do or should do. Get under his skin, get him freaked out. And he did. And he behaved like he was freaked out. He was angry. He was trying so hard to hold his anger, which is tough for a guy like Donald Trump. He doesn't hold his anger very well. He was able to get away with ranting and raving and screaming while he was in business and apparently while he was in the White House, too. It took all he had to hold back as much as he did, but he still went off the rails with what he said. Thank you, Stephanie. Um, Next one says, Hello, my fellow American. I know it's been a while for me. Enough about me, though. Let me get this off my chest about that disaster on CNN last night. I watched and listened to the Democratic candidate stay on topic and falter as he fumbled his responses to questions asked of him. That being said, the other convicted felon Republican candidate never answered the questions. All he did was spit out lie after lie and what he has done for the country during his disastrous term as president. CNN is a disgrace as a news network. They don't have a clue how to run a debate. I'm insulted as an American to hear the mediators call that orange bojo Mr. President in the presence of the real president, the one who saved this country from that traitor. We have a problem, Mike, here in this country. We can't count on the news media to give us the truth in real time. While they're looking for ratings, they're selling out this country to criminals looking to gut our democracy. Couldn't agree more. What the fuck, Mike? In the famous words of the godfather of soul, James Brown, I'm mad. I want revenge. I want the big payback. Okay, let me calm down. Thanks for listening, Mike. Stay woke. And who signed that? Sincerely, Faye. Well, thank you, Faye. I appreciate that, and I couldn't agree with you more. This country has a lot of problems. They have a lot of problems. And Democrats, particularly, are so scared of Donald Trump. We saw that in 2020 with the votes that came out, and that's the good part of it. But they are so scared that they panic at any sign of something going negatively. Joe Biden's been in office for 4 years. He's been highly successful, maybe more successful than any other president in history. In those 4 years, Donald Trump has been sued 3 times to the tune of a $500 million, and he's lost. He's lost every appeal he's ever tried. He's been indicted 4 times. He's been convicted 34 times. He's going to be sentenced on July 11th. And soon he's going to find out that he doesn't have immunity, which is going to take the defense away from the next 3 trials. But we got to worry about Donald Trump. Or we got to worry about Joe Biden. Donald Trump is a mess. As I've said before, he's probably the worst presidential candidate from a major party in the history of this country by a long shot. In terms of his criminality, he's probably the most prolific criminal currently being tried and being convicted. How many people do you know, even the worst motherfuckers you know, even Fleece Johnson for that matter? How many people do you know that have 34 convictions and have another 54 waiting in the wings? But it's Joe Biden that's got the problem. All right, the next one says, "Hi, Mike. Heather Cox Richardson wrote something about the debate that I thought you would like to consider. She was speaking to Trump's onslaught of lies and wrote, it went on, and that was the point. This was not a debate. It was Trump using a technique that actually has a formal name, the Gish Gallop, although I suspect he comes by it naturally. It's a rhetorical technique in which someone throws out a fast string of lies, non sequiturs, and specious arguments, so many that it's impossible to fact check or rebut them in the amount of time it took them to say them. Trying to figure out how to respond makes the opponent look confused because they don't know where to start grappling with the flood that has just hit them. Yeah, I'm familiar with that term, and I think you're absolutely right. I don't think this is Donald Trump sitting in before the debate saying, let's use the Gish Gallop. This is just who he is. Everything is instinctive and emotional with Donald Trump. That's just who he is. It's funny, you see this all the time, not just from Donald Trump, but from anybody that goes on left side media that happens to be a Republican. They talk loud and they talk long and they don't stop. When somebody tries to ask a hard question, they keep talking and say, you don't interrupt me. This is a strategy a lot of people fucking use. And there's ways of stopping that. But unfortunately, the people in our media just refuse to do it. I experienced it a little bit when I've had the Trumplefucks on the show. And what you do is you slow it down and you just say, stop. You didn't answer the question. And then when he doesn't answer the question, you go back, you didn't answer the question. You keep pounding on them until it's embarrassing for them. Then they don't know what to do. Anyway, the email goes on. It is a form of gaslighting, and it is especially effective on someone with a stutter, as Biden has. It is similar to what Trump did to Biden during the debate in 2020. In that case, though, the lack of muting of the mics left Biden simply saying, will you shut up, man? A comment that resonated with the audience, giving Biden the enforced space to answer by killing the mic of the person not speaking tonight, actually made the technique more effective. There are ways to combat the Gish Gallop by calling it out for what it is, among other ways, but Biden retreated to trying to give the 3 pieces of evidence that establish his own credentials on the point at hand. His command of those points was notable, but the difference between how he sounded at the debate and how he sounded on stage at a rally in Raleigh, North Carolina, just an hour afterward suggested that the technique worked on him. Yeah, I would say you're right. I'm grateful for your take on the debate and agree with you tenfold. We need to keep our eyes on November and remember that we're dealing with a criminal running against a wholly capable president and his cabinet with a track record of success. We have to keep moving forward. This is a minor setback. Peace to you, Gabrielle. And you're right, it is a minor setback. That's why I don't understand why Democrats are making this a big deal. It's not that big a deal. Um, Joe Biden went in there and he was not only debating Donald Trump, he was debating CNN, Jake Tapper, and Dana Bash. It was a setup. It was a setup. And, I'm not going to whine about it. We're just going to move on. Don't give it any more importance than you absolutely have to. It's not important. It will be forgotten in the next couple of weeks, if not before. Certainly after Donald Trump is sentenced, that's going to be the big news. Nobody will be thinking about the debate. And as somebody pointed out before, um, this Professor Lichtman, there has never been a time in history where a debate has moved the needle at all. Not at all. And in this case, all we hear now, for whatever we want to give to polls, it shows down Joe Biden's poll numbers went up, and he certainly collected a shitload of money after the fact. So I don't see where the problem is. If there was a devastating backlash for Joe Biden and it hurt him in the polls and it hurt him in his money, I can say, okay, we need to think about this. But it did the opposite. So what are we whining about? All right. The next one says, Mike, I listened to this, The Rest is Politics podcast before listening to your podcast and was struck by the contrasting views. He sent me a link, which I probably won't listen to. If they're contrasting mine, I don't give a fuck, but I appreciate it anyway. I don't think there's a danger that voters may switch to supporting Trump. I don't either. However, I think they could withhold their vote and allow the fanatical Trump supporters to get the upper hand. From an international perspective, Biden's performance was very concerning. Scott, UK. Yeah, it was concerning, but was it not concerning the egregious shit that Donald Trump said? I've said this to people before. Okay, you don't like Joe Biden, so you're going to vote for an authoritarian dictator who's trying to overthrow the country. That's your play. That's what you're going to do. Are you going to withhold your vote? Scott, with all due respect, you're in UK. I don't know if you understand the temperament and the climate in this country. People are scared to death of Donald Trump. I'm guessing there'll be Republicans that would always vote Republican that are going to vote for Joe Biden, or at least not vote for Donald Trump because they're terrified. I just don't see a major swing come November. I said before, Donald Trump has no way of winning. Even after that debate, I will tell you, he has no way of winning. How does a man who embraces overturning Roe v. Wade when 75% of the country supports it, taking away constitutional rights from women of all things, and you think he has a chance? Joe Biden could be dribbling on himself and he would still beat Donald Trump. All right. Morning, Mike. Neighbors should mind their own business, and Canada is by no means perfect when it comes to the homeless, but what the fuck? SCOTUS banning outdoor camping in tent cities. Do those fools think the majority of individuals want to be living in that situation? Honestly, our society, including Canada, is 2 generations away from Handmaid's Tale or the Hunger Games world. We need to right the ship for our descendants. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, that was that case where they wanted to make being homeless illegal. And I thought it was kind of funny when you think about it. I mean, it's not funny that they made it illegal, but what they're talking about is handing out tickets to the homeless. You're going to hand tickets out to the homeless. You're going to find them with money they don't have. And when they don't pay the money, you're going to go get them up from their homes with their subpoenas and such. Oh, wait, they don't have homes. So how are you going to find them? How are you going to find them? This is just another bullshit attempt to make like they're trying to be tough and they're not tough. We've got a lot of problems with SCOTUS. We got to get to the election. We've got to get rid of the Republicans, and we've got to straighten SCOTUS out very quickly. As I've said before, without a credible and a legitimate Supreme Court, we don't have a legitimate and credible democracy. It's that crucial. It's codify Roe v. Wade and fix the Supreme Court, not necessarily in that order, but those two things have to be done immediately. I don't care. Um, I don't care what excuses are used. That has to be done. If you hope to preserve our democracy. And then, of course, Citizens International, get the money shit out of the government. Those three things need to be taken care of right away. Otherwise, you might as well just sit on your ass and let the country go to shit. First thing we have to do is win the election. And I have no question in my mind that Joe Biden will win. I don't think Joe Biden is going to pull out. That would be the dumbest thing in the world at this point. Unless unless Joe Biden keeled over on the stage and went into convulsions, he's not going to quit. It's not going to. And it's not even a good idea. As much as these people are freaking out and saying, oh, we got to get somebody younger, it's not a good idea 4 or 5 months away from the election. If this were a year and a half ago, maybe, but not at this point. All right, the next one says, hi, Boomer. Just wanted to say thanks, man. After watching the debate, my initial thought was, oh, it's over now. But thanks to my man, Mike the Boomer, I settled down and thought about it instead of going all doom and gloom. We still have a race for the future of this country, Biden to continue our democratic way of life, or the orange Cheeto dust man to ruin our country. So positive thoughts ahead. Let's go, Joe. Thanks, Mike. Rich of American Canyon. Thank you, Rich. You're absolutely right. You never go into anything thinking you're going to lose. You've always got to be planning to win, and more often than not, you will win. I'm tired of people crying and whining. I'm really, there are some creators out there that I like, but if I was sitting down with them, they wouldn't end up liking me in the end because I would call them out on their ridiculous behavior. All right. Hi, Mike. Well, it's now been a week. I have a question. Yesterday, I heard Mike Johnson talk about invoking the 25th Amendment against Biden. These traitors are not even pretending anymore, hoping to get clarification from someone smarter than me, if that is even possible. I will vote for Joe to save the country. There really is no other choice. As always, thank you. Gina from Massachusetts. P.S. Ever come to Boston? I'll buy you a burger. Well, we are looking forward to coming to Boston in the future. I don't know when or where, when we'll be going. But Gina, I got to tell you, if there's anything that interests me more than free food, I don't know what the fuck it is. So if I come to Boston, I'm going to send you an email and we'll meet for a burger. You don't even have to pay for it. I'm all in on burgers. I eat burgers all over, and I have my favorites, and I'm always anxious to try a new one. In terms of the 25th Amendment, it's real nice for Mike Johnson to say that, but he doesn't really have any say in the matter. The people that have to issue this 25th Amendment is really members of his cabinet, the vice president, and that's not going to happen. It's a joke. If they couldn't get it done for Donald Trump and his cabinet was actually talking about it, they're not going to do anything close to that with Joe Biden. All right, the next one says, Mike, for 50 years, I've been a KC Chiefs fan. In the last 5 years, they won 3 Super Bowls, and none of those games did they win decisively. It came down to the last quarter or so. My analogy is this. We are in the fourth quarter of this election and seems bleak at times. Know this. Joe Biden is going to win this election. There is no evidence otherwise. Go, Joe. Allen from Kansas City, Missouri. P.S. Let's keep our heads in the game. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Next one comes from Peg HM. Just wanted to say how much I enjoy your podcast with Wilfredo. He was smart, informed, and witty. Looking very forward to him being on in the future. Also, it was great that Matt joined you again last week. Thanks, Peg. Yeah, Wilfredo did a great job. Everybody does a great job. They're all different, but they always do a great job. I'm very fortunate to be able to have those listeners willing to come on the show and improve the show by having them on. Like I always say, it makes me look a lot better. It makes the show easier to do when listeners are on, and I appreciate it immensely. Couldn't agree with you more, Peg, regarding Matt, Wilfredo, Old Soul, and all those folks. Everybody, Eric, Jace, Ed. All right, the next one comes from Don. It's a short one. Fantastic podcast on Saturday. I love that guy talking about Wilfredo. Keep up the great work, your friend in Republifux. Don. Well, thank you, Don. I appreciate it. And again, I couldn't agree with you more. Okay. Now we got a long email. But the good news is the email is coming from Old Soul. I had a feeling she might have something to say about the debate. And when we catch up this coming week, I'm sure we'll talk more about it. So Old Soul goes on to say, with everyone up in arms about the debate Thursday night, I'd like to share my thoughts. I was always told by my grandmother there's victory in defeat. What we saw Thursday night was Trump outperform Biden. Some would call it a victory for Trump and a defeat for Biden. What we saw Thursday night and Friday after the debate was Biden raised $27 million in a small donor donations. What we saw Friday during Biden's Raleigh, North Carolina rally was a loud and energetic crowd. What we saw Friday during Trump's Chesapeake, Virginia rally was a scarce, low energy crowd struggling to make sense of the nonsense Trump spewed. What we witnessed after the debate Thursday is a perfect example of victory in defeat. Biden struggled with Latino voters. He no longer has to worry about Latino voters after Trump stood on the stage with millions watching Latinos, rapists, and murderers coming from insane asylums and mental institutions. Do you think he won over black voters by saying black jobs? I'm not even on social media, and I saw black jobs trending on black Twitter and IG. Black content creators were going live, having conversations with their subscribers discussing black jobs. Trump didn't do himself any favors standing on stage attacking women, 50% of this country. What made him think implying women go through 9 months with a child growing inside them, having a gender reveal, throwing a baby shower, thinking of baby names, painstakingly designing a nursery, going through the pain of childbirth, then once the baby is born, look at the doctor and say, kill it. He has no idea how insulting that is. He has no empathy for a rape victim and young girls being impregnated by a predator. Well, mainly because he is a rapist and a predator. He showed he didn't care that the forced birth of a non viable fetus could mean sterilization, killing the hopes and dreams for families. Trump couldn't see his own contradictions when he said them. Everyone, Democrat and Republicans, and every legal scholar agree Roe v. Wade should be up to the states, yet everyone tried for 50 years to overturn Roe v. Wade, and it couldn't have been overturned without him. Which is it? Did everyone want Roe v. Wade to be in the hands of the states, or were they fighting for 50 years to keep it out of the states? Trump stood on stage and defended the January 6th insurrectionist. He told millions of people the Capitol Police opened the doors and let the insurrectionist in. He said Nancy Pelosi was at fault for January 6th and it wasn't his responsibility to call the National Guard. For some reason, it was her responsibility. Donald Trump said he never said that they were very fine people on both sides of Charlottesville. He told Gen Z and millennials climate change is a hoax. He said he only accepted the results of the election if it was fair. It was fair last time, and he still hasn't accepted the results. Where I'm from, they call that playing in our faces. Trump stood on the debate stage Thursday and played in our faces of millions of Americans by telling us the opposite of what we saw with our own eyes. That's the problem with MAGA. They're allowed to live in an alternate reality, but that doesn't work with the rest of the world. What we saw on that debate stage Thursday was a Trump rally that only speaks to his MAGA base. Biden may have fumbled the ball, but without that fumble, millions of people who haven't been paying attention, millions who haven't seen his outrageous rallies, and millions who haven't paid attention to him since January 6th would not have been reminded why they fired him in 2020. What I saw from Democrats after the debate on Thursday frustrated me more than Biden's performance. They ran around like it was a five-alarm fire. I saw pundits saying Biden needed to be replaced. The nerve. Name a politician who hasn't had a bad debate. Name an athlete who hasn't fumbled in a playoff. Name a person who hasn't underperformed at the worst possible moment. Like Biden says, when you fall, you get back up. Instead of bashing Biden and joining Republicans spinning the narrative that he's incompetent and can't do the job, how about we have his back the same way he had our backs when he refused to let us go into recession after Trump botched the pandemic, like when he lifted 4.75 million Americans from their student debt, like when he got rid of junk fees from banks, airlines, and Ticketmaster. How about we have his back when he passed legislation protecting voting rights despite Republican obstructions, like when he released people from prison in for low-level drug offenses, like when he brought back manufacturing boom that Trump failed to do, like when he stood with unions, like when he put back regulations to keep workers safe after Trump removed them, causing the Palestine railroad crash. Let's have Biden's back the way he had ours when he lowered the cost of prescription drugs for seniors, like when he passed gun reform, like the child tax credit lifting children out of poverty, like when he sent funds to states so children don't have to go hungry during the summer, like when he passed legislation on climate change, like when he took the lead switching to electric instead of allowing China to take the lead, or like when he brought 15 million good paying jobs to Americans. I haven't said a word against CNN or the moderators because Biden hasn't. I haven't acknowledged him having a cold because Biden hasn't used that as an excuse. I choose to do a side by side comparison. I choose to point out the fact that Biden took responsibility for his poor debate and performance the very next day. No excuse. He didn't say it was rigged or unfair. He didn't jump online and tweet angrily attacking and blaming. If I wanted that type of behavior, I'd be a Republican. When I saw the numbers of the small dollar donations, I believed in Biden even more because I saw the panic and I saw the fear. Not because Biden fumbled the debate, but because people were afraid Trump could win a second term. People don't like Biden. They think he is too old. And no matter what we do or say, they will not vote for him. But on election day, they will go into the voting booth and vote against Trump. If Biden would have won the debate, undoubtedly MAGA would have had a complete meltdown, and we would be sitting back, shaking our head, laughing, and calling them snowflakes. So why would we behave that way and expect to be treated any differently? Everyone has had a couple of days to process the letdown from Biden's debate performance. It's time to get back on track. Make the case for Biden and don't stop until the last vote is counted. No one said it would be a cakewalk to November. This is the first bump in the road. Maybe we lost a tire, but we still have three left, and I plan on riding this mofo until the wheels fall off. Thanks for reading my email, Boomer. I know it was a long one. I appreciate all you do, old soul. Hmm. Now, you know why I have Old Soul on every week. It's a smart woman. She makes me look real good when she's on the show because she makes the show entertaining. Um, she always has these interesting references from her TT or bringing up Fleece Johnson and that kind of stuff. I find that very funny. But I don't know, I can't name anybody that's smarter than her when it comes to analyzing the situation and then laying it out in words. She's far better at it than I am. I like to think of myself as pretty good at it, but I have to take a step back when she starts talking because she knows her shit and she knows how to explain it in a way where people will understand it. All right. Another email. Hi, Mike. Good Lord, the debate in some ways was exactly what I expected. In others, it wasn't. There isn't enough alcohol for anything Trump said to make sense. Everything Trump said he did was the biggest or the best. And according to Trump, everything Biden's done was the worst ever. Trump really only had three talking points: lying about the border, lying about how good his first term was, and taking credit for the fall of Roe. Did you see the story from Oklahoma? The state school superintendent is requiring all public schools to teach the Bible and 10 Commandments. The Christian conservatives in this country are almost out of control. They're terrified of being in the minority. They expect to be treated how they treated minorities in the past. Now they know how they treat marginalized communities and how awful it is. They are terrified, and the only way they think they can stay in the majority is to legislate everyone else to be like them. Hawk on TikTok had an amazing point on Friday with the overturning of the Chevron case. This is the third year in a row that the Supreme Court has overturned a long-standing settled case. They started with Roe. Last year it was affirmative action, and this year it's Chevron. The conservatives on this court have proven they don't care about precedent. Thomas wants them overturned, wants to overturn Obergefell, Loving versus Virginia, Griswold versus Connecticut, and now the Robertson case. The Robertson case was the case that said states can't make your status illegal. They can make being in possession and under the influence of drugs illegal, but not simply being an addict. This court needs to be fixed. All of the conservative justices said in their confirmation hearings they respect precedents. Clearly, they lied, and they should be removed. Thanks, Eric. And there is another gentleman who's been on the show and makes me look smart too. I think this is the last email. I have to be completely honest and say that I didn't watch the presidential debate against the dirty diaper orange boy and the sitting President Biden. Dirty diaper Donnie was just lying the entire time and not answering the questions, while President Joe Biden was looking at him in complete disdain. I was watching some clips of the debate on TikTok, and I was laughing my butt off the entire time and just speechless. Donald thinks that President Joe Biden is going to jail and then lies that he didn't have a sexual encounter with Stormy Daniels when he spent the last few months in New York City's courthouse dozing off and smelling the courtroom like a chimney. I heard on Facebook that the Democratic Party and other people want President Joe Biden to be replaced, but I was like, who in the Democratic Party is willing to step up to the plate and serve this country as the next commander in chief? When the diaper boy is acting like a 6-year-old, President Joe Biden should have expressed the dark Brandon personality or show up with how he acted during the State of the Union. I'm still going to vote blue because I'm just completely done with DJT. Trevor. Trevor's been on the show too. Thank you, Trevor. I appreciate that. Yeah, this whole situation has gotten out of hand. This whole thing with the debate will fade. Donald Trump exposed who he was. And as much as everybody wants to say that Joe Biden lost in this debate and Donald Trump won, let's look at the facts. Joe Biden's fundraising more than ever. Joe Biden's poll numbers are going up. Donald Trump has weak attendance at his rallies, and people have seen how he's working against women, immigrants, people of color, and all these things. He reminded them of just how batshit crazy he is and how fucked up he is and how dangerous he is to this country. All the other TikTokers, all the other media pundits, and all this shit can say whatever they want about Joe Biden. He's not dropping out. He will win the election in a fucking walk in November. And of course, I say that with the only exception being, God forbid, some kind of physical malady for Joe Biden. He is 82, and that kind of thing could happen at any moment. And that is troubling to a lot of folks, I know. And if we had some other choices, I'd say great, but we don't have a choice right now. We got to get on this horse, ride it to the finish line. And then once we get past the finish line, if Joe wants to retire or whatever the fuck he wants to do, that's cool. But we got to get past November and eradicate the Republicans and Donald Trump. After that, I'm all for having younger presidents and younger senators and younger representatives. But for you young people that are whining about it, it's going to be on you. Once we're done with this election, it's all on you. You don't get to bitch about the boomers anymore. You have the control. You have the power. You have the voting block. So make plans to fucking get it done. It will be your turn, and we old people will be sitting back watching so you can show us how it's done. All right. We are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.